my dear students, myself Gangadhar Solanke, and I welcome you all to the MCGM's virtual classroom.
So my dear students, today in Standard 7's Geography, we'll be learning the topic winds. Our last chapter in Geography was air pressure, and in that we discussed about the concept of air and the air pressure. Now here in this topic we are going to discuss about the winds and the types of winds and also about the cyclones. So here we will start now about the winds. We feel the wind but cannot see it, which is very common. हम महसूस करते हैं, बट वी कैनॉट सी इट. हम ये नहीं बताते कि हाँ वहाँ पे हवा है, मैं उसे देख पा रहा हूँ. सो वी फील द विंड बट कैनॉट सी इट. व्हेन सर्टेन ऑब्जेक्ट्स इन आवर सराउंडिंग्स मूव, we experience wind. The movement of air is called wind. Now what is the exact difference between the wind and air? The movement of air why does air move, and that we already learned in the topic air pressure. The movement of air is called wind. Air moves from areas of high pressure to areas of low pressure, and this movement of air is the wind. Whenever air moves from high pressure to areas of low pressure, then there is movement in the air, and this movement is called the wind. The horizontal movement of air caused by differences in air pressure. So air moves from high to low. We have learned that the air pressure is not uniform across the Earth's surface. That we already discussed in the last chapter, that is air pressure. And we also learned that air moves from high pressure areas towards low pressure areas in horizontal manner. Winds are generated due to this movement. Here you can see again in the image in detail change in direction of winds. The extent of the difference in the air pressure affects the velocity of the wind. Here now you can see cold, that is high pressure, and how it moves from high to low pressure. And because of this movement, we call air as wind. The extent of the difference in the air pressure affects the velocity of the wind. And if there is less difference in the pressure, winds blow with less velocity. And if the difference is greater, then winds blow with greater velocities. With pressure difference, where it is greater. Wind speed also varies, and wind velocity is measured in the units of knots or kilometers per hour. As you can see here, calm, then 5 knots, then 10 knots, then 15 knots and 20 knots. Wind speed is written in the units of knots, knt, a nautical speed. Here now again, when we consider the earth as a whole, we find the direction of the winds is influenced by the rotation of the earth, and in the northern hemisphere winds get deflected towards the right of their original direction. Again now here in the image you can see, whereas in the southern hemisphere original direction, and this direction has been shown by curved arrows in the figure like this. Here you can see the curved arrows. The rotation from west to east causes this change in the original direction of the winds. So this red one, original direction of air from high pressure to low pressure, but because of its rotation changed direction. This is the original direction but changed direction due to rotation of the earth. Next thing, figure 5.3 and the questions based on it which you people can solve. And then the names of winds. Winds are known by the direction from which they blow. For example, westerlies, which are winds that blow from the west. By the name only you can understand. जो वेस्ट से ब्लो होती है उन्हें वेस्टर्लीज कहा जाता है. And the direction of blowing, the duration, the regions covered and the condition of the air determine the following wind types. The direction of blowing, कौन सी दिशा में जा रही है, the duration, कितने टाइम के लिए, the regions covered and the condition of the air determine these three types of winds, that is the planetary winds, local winds and seasonal wind. So in the seasonal winds, local winds and planetary winds, we'll now go in. So the most important thing about planetary winds, this type of winds blow regularly and covers a large portion of the earth. That's why it is called planetary winds. And the examples of planetary winds, we have easterlies, westerlies and polar winds. Now the figure 5.3, which is given in our textbook. In both the hemispheres, the winds blow from the high pressure area between 25 degree and 35 parallels. 35 degree parallels. Here you can see, to the equatorial low pressure belt. These arrows you can see. And due to the rotation of the earth, their original direction changes. So in the northern hemisphere, they blow from the northeast to the southwest, whereas in the southern hemisphere, they blow from the southeast to the northwest. Now this is easy to understand when you people study this with the help of given figure. And such type of winds are known as the easterlies. And the same thing about the westerlies. In both the hemispheres, winds blow from the mid-latitudinal high pressure belt to the subpolar low pressure belt situated near 60 degree parallel. Here in between 55 and 65, here and here. Their original direction changes due to the rotation of the earth, and in the southern hemisphere, these winds blow from the northwest to the southeast, and in northern hemisphere, they blow from the southwest to the northeast, and these winds are called westerlies. And this is, or this name is given because of the direction. Now in both the hemispheres, winds blowing from the polar high pressure belt to the subpolar low pressure belt are called polar winds. Generally, this type of winds blow from east to west. Here you can see subpolar . In our textbook, figure 5.4a of valley bridge and 5.4b of mountain bridge given, and by observing this, you have to write down the characteristics of valley bridge and of characteristics of the mountain bridge given. Mountains cool down quickly at night. Valley zone is comparatively warmer. Air pressure is greater on the mountains. Winds blow from the mountain towards the valley. The hot and light air from the valley is pushed upward. Here you can see. And the cool air rushes down into the valley. Mountain winds set in after sunset. Then the next thing, valley breeze occurs in the daytime when air along mountain slopes is heated more intensely than air at the same elevation over a valley floor. So it is an upslope movement. If you observe this figure carefully, you can understand this easily. Warm, 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 and because of this, the movement in the air. Valley and mountain breezes. Daily cycle of airflow occurs with valley and mountain breezes. Convectional circulation caused by differential heating of higher versus lower elevations. So the mountain air cools quickly at night, allowing cooler air to drain down the slope in the evening. Conversely, valley air heats more rapidly during the day, allowing warm air to move upslope during the day. So valley breeze an upslope flow during day, mountain breeze a downslope flow during night. Figure 5.5a of sea breeze and figure 5.5b of land breeze. And here the major local winds in the world. Names are given, nature of the wind also given, and the characteristics and the areas of influence. For your general knowledge, for your general study, you can read this in the textbook and get info. Cyclonic conditions are created when a low pressure area is surrounded by high pressure areas. Again I am repeating, cyclonic conditions are created when a low pressure area is surrounded by high pressure area. For example, this one here point is of low pressure area, और इसे अगर हाई प्रेशर ने सराउंड किया है, उसके आजू बाजू में हाई प्रेशर है, तो साइक्लोन क्रिएट होता है. Cyclonic conditions are created when a low pressure area is surrounded by high pressure areas, and in these conditions winds start blowing towards the low pressure area from the surrounding high pressure areas. We have also studied about this, that wind or air travel from high pressure to low pressure, and here when there is low pressure area which is surrounded by high pressure area, तो यहाँ पर जो high pressure है वहाँ से towards wind start blowing the low pressure area, and which from the cyclones. Now here in the figure 5.7 you can easily observe and understand this. Here this one low pressure area which is surrounded by हाई प्रेशर एरिया, ये सब हाई प्रेशर है और ये लो प्रेशर है. तो यहाँ से आप देख रहे हैं यहाँ पे फिगर में एयर और द विंड स्टार्ट ब्लोइंग टुवर्ड्स द लो प्रेशर एरिया, एंड विच कॉजेस फॉर्मेशन ऑफ साइक्लोन. In detail we'll see now. Here again by this figure you can easily understand this one is the area where cyclone is formed, and which is because of the low air pressure surrounded by high air pressure. तो ये जो high air pressure का एरिया है, यहाँ से wind towards blow होती है low pressure area. Next thing, due to the rotation of the earth, the cyclonic winds in the northern hemisphere move in an anti-clockwise direction, not in clockwise. Due to the rotation of the earth, the cyclonic winds in the northern hemisphere move in an anti-clockwise direction, and whereas they move in a clockwise direction in the southern hemisphere. So in northern hemisphere it's in anti-clockwise direction, and in southern hemisphere it's in a clockwise direction. During a cyclone, the sky is cloudy, winds blow with a very high velocity, and it rains heavily. Here you can see again cyclonic storm, this figure given in our textbook, figure 5.8. The area affected by cyclones is limited. जैसे बारिश है या फिर तेज हवा चलती है तो एरिया ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा कवर हो सकता है बाय दिस, बट इन साइक्लोन्स द एरिया इफेक्टेड इज लिमिटेड, एंड द ड्यूरेशन, वेलोसिटीज, डायरेक्शन एंड प्लेस ऑफ ओरिजिन ऑफ दिस विंड्स इज अनप्रेडिक्टेबल. उसके बारे में प्रेडिक्ट किया नहीं जा सकता कि ये कितनी देर तक चलेगा, उसकी वेलोसिटी क्या होगी, वो कौन सी डायरेक्शन में जाएगा, और ये तैयार कहाँ पे होता है. सो ऑल दीज थिंग्स आर अनप्रेडिक्टेबल. इन द फिगर और इन दिस GIF you can see cyclone. Again the next thing, here also you can see the center of a cyclone is represented by the letter L in the weather maps. A cyclone system moves from one place to another. Here you can see this L, this one, this one. So these are nothing but the cyclone, and here you can see in this weather map how it is showing. So the next thing to understand is cyclonic storms. Cyclones occurring in the western part of the Pacific Ocean along the coasts of Japan, China, Philippines, etc. are known as typhoons. यहाँ पर पर्टिकुलर जो साइक्लोन्स आते हैं उन्हें टाइफून्स कहा जाता है. एंड दिस स्टॉर्म्स अराइज इन द मंथ्स बिटवीन जून एंड अक्टूबर. June and October. Due to high velocity winds and heavy rains, these prove to be destructive because of its nature, or because of the high velocity of winds and heavy rain. These cyclones, typhoons, may prove to be destructive. The next one, the cyclones in the Caribbean Sea are known as hurricanes, and these are also destructive in nature. Destructive in nature, इन साइक्लोन की वजह से बहुत सारा नुकसान हो सकता है. During these storms, the minimum velocity of the wind is 60 km per hour. To understand this, imagine कीजिए कि आप किसी बाइक पे है और आप बाइक इस स्पीड से चला रहे हैं कि 1 घंटे में वो 60 किलोमीटर चलती है. तो वो जो स्पीड आपके गाड़ी का रहेगा, आपके बाइक का रहेगा, उस स्पीड से हवा या स्टॉर्म उस वक्त उतना तेज होता है. साइक्लोन्स ऑल्सो ओरिजिनेट इन द टेम्परेट जोन, बट दे आर नॉट सो पावरफुल एंड हेंस आर नॉट डिस्ट्रक्टिव. So keep in mind two names, typhoons and hurricanes. Now we'll go for the next thing, that is anticyclones. Now it is in the name only, cyclones, anticyclones, जो उससे कुछ ना कुछ उल्टा है, कुछ ना कुछ opposite है, that we'll see. Under specific atmospheric conditions, the air pressure in the particular region increases and the pressure in the surrounding areas remain low, which is the basic condition of the formation of cyclones. कि एक एरिया है जहाँ पर लो प्रेशर है and which is surrounded by the high air pressure. So in this situation, winds blow from the center towards the surrounding areas in a circular manner. And in the northern hemisphere, these winds blow in a clockwise direction, whereas in the southern hemisphere they blow in anti-clockwise direction. Here now in the figure you can easily see how it forms. Direction of wind movement, this one, and wind, you can see this here, how it is going in the direction. During anticyclones, the skies are clear, winds blow with lesser velocities and weather is pleasant. मतलब कोई नुकसान नहीं है, कोई खतरा नहीं है, दिखने में भी कुछ बहुत ज़्यादा उथल पुथल हो रही है एटमॉस्फेयर में, ऐसा नहीं लगता है. Anticyclones generally last for few days or a week, and such anticyclones originate in temperate zones. Keep in mind this. Then the next thing, here you can see difference between cyclones and anticyclones. This one anticyclones and this one cyclones. Low pressure area surrounded by high pressure area, and here the direction of the wind you can see. So by observing this figure, try to understand the basic difference between the cyclones and anticyclones. So in cyclones or in cyclonic conditions, as we studied, these conditions are created when a low pressure area is surrounded by high pressure areas, and in these conditions winds start blowing towards the low pressure area from the surrounding high pressure areas, and when they move in a clockwise direction in the southern hemisphere, then it is cyclones or cyclonic storms, and when it is in the anti-clockwise direction in the northern hemisphere, then it is anticyclones. On weather maps, the center of an anticyclone is represented by the letter H, whereas we studied about the cyclones, which is represented by the letter L. Here H you can see, which means it is anticyclone, and the direction of wind you can see. Value of air pressure in millibars, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Anticyclones are vividly experienced in high pressure belts. Winds in these regions are always moving out, and hence the rainfall in such areas is quite low. Now, one activity for this lesson which is given in our textbook is using the internet obtain information, photos and maps of the recent cyclones that arrived in India's eastern coast, and write the social and economic effects of that cyclone. One more thing, that is use the mobile app WindDT and try to know the direction of winds and pressure areas in the world. So by doing all these activities, you can understand the concept of cyclones or anticyclones in detail. Now in the next session of social studies, we will talk about natural regions in geography. Subscribe the channel and press bell icon to get notifications.
So my dear students, this is all for today. Thank you very much. Stay home, stay safe, take care.